Hello students, today we are going to learn some important general considerations regarding antimicrobial agents. So, till now we had discussed many things about antimicrobial agents. One of the things that was under our discussion was problems arising with the use of antimicrobial agents. Toxicity, hypersensitivity, drug resistance, superinfections, nutritional deficiencies, masking of an infections are some of the major problems which are seen with antimicrobial agents. Out of that, we will be discussing from drug resistance, superinfection, nutritional deficiencies, and masking of infection. That we are going to discuss in the upcoming videos. In this particular video, we will cover drug resistance. So what is drug resistance? Drug resistance refers to unresponsiveness of a microorganism to an antimicrobial agent. The concept of drug resistance came through concept of selective pressure, meaning it does not happen so that because an antimicrobial agent was given to the patient, the causative microorganism changes its structure because antimicrobial agent is there and becomes unresponsive. But the concept is something very different. The concept is of selective pressure. It can be very well described with the help of this particular diagram. You see here, there are these green color microbes and there are these two red ones. All of them belong to the same species and strain which is causing some infection. But what is different for these two is they are mutants. Of course, there lies a survival, competition for survival in all of them. What happens because now there is infection because of all this, you give antibiotic or antimicrobial agent. When you give antimicrobial agent, that antimicrobial agent kill all the green ones, but the red ones are already resistant to this particular antimicrobial agent. So the red ones suffers from no competition and they are able to grow in number, and that is how presence of this antibiotic has put selective positive pressure for survival on these red two by killing their competitors. So this is a concept of resistance, survival of the mutant because of selective pressure exerted by antibiotic. When I talk about resistance, which are the types of resistance? Resistance is of two types. One is natural and another is acquired. When I talk about natural resistance, this is a drug, this is its target, this is gram-positive bacteria and the target is only present in gram-positive bacteria. It is never present in the gram-negative bacteria. That means your drug will not ever be able to target or kill gram-negative bacteria. So that means gram-negative species are naturally resistant. All the microbes, okay, in the population are naturally resistant to this drug. Natural resistance does not pose a major clinical problem because you already know that the target is absent in the major population and you will never prescribe this drug to treat any gram-negative infection. What bothers us is acquired type of resistance. When I say acquired type of resistance, it is nothing but what is explained here. Meaning, you have a drug and a target. You have bacteria or microbes from the same species, but two of them are mutant. Now, your drug will come, it will interact with these targets and will kill these particular microbes. Consider it is a cidal drug. Okay, it is killing drug. What will happen? These all will be absent. These two get a chance to get all the nutrients, get a chance to survive, and they form their own colony. Now, this particular colony will is obviously resistant for this drug. So here, what is the difference is? Take example of this gram positive population. So this entire population is of gram positive, but amongst that gram positive, there are two mutants which have modified target. Okay, clear? Going ahead, what leads to development of resistance? Which are the actual mechanisms by which the resistance is developed? One mechanism is mutation. Mutation is changes in the genetic material which occur because of any factor. It does not occur because of the antibiotic. Okay. Mutation to survive, okay, it has to be stable, heritable, spontaneous. So it will always be spontaneous mutation and it is not induced by antimicrobial agent. These things you will have to remember about mutation. Until and unless mutation is stable and heritable, it won't be transmitted to some other organisms besides, and the colony won't survive. So basically, spontaneously, when any mutation occurs which is stable, okay, like this is a normal micro. Because of any reason, there is some mutation. The mutation is stable, okay, and the mutated A survives. And because if this is my target of the drug, okay, this is a genetic material, there is change in the genetics of the mutant, and this mutant when survives and multiplies and causes infection, that is a problem. So one mechanism for development of resistance is mutation. Second mechanism, or all other mechanisms that we are going to see, are of gene transfer. So this mutant is able to survive with the mutation it has undergone. When this mutant is able to transfer resistance to other species or same species, then it is called as gene transfer mechanism of resistance. It is also called as infectious resistance. So with the help of diagram, if we see, this is your mutant. This is a sensitive organism. Your mutant transfers this resistant factor to this sensitive organism and leads to development of resistance in the sensitive microorganism. This is a simple concept of gene transfer. When you talk about gene transfer, which are the mechanisms of gene transfer? So very first mechanism of gene transfer is conjugation. In conjugation, what is happening? This is your mutant. This is a normal sensitive organism. A mutant forms a bridge or sex pili with the normal organism. And what happens is there is a transfer of R factor which is responsible for resistance, with the help of resistance transfer factor, and the B also becomes resistant. Now here I have shown from same species or same strain, okay, but this type of resistance transfer can also occur from one species of microorganism to another species also. Next mechanism is transduction. Transduction occurs via vector. Vector is an agency which can carry a genetic material from one cell of microbe to other cell. As shown in the diagram, this is a viral vector which infects this particular cell, which carries resistant factor. The virus goes inside, itself multiplies. During multiplication, the R factor or this particular plasmid responsible for resistance gets incorporated into the viral genetic material. Virus forms its copies, multiple copies. After forming n number of copies, it causes lysis of this particular cell and goes out. Now this virus has genetic material which is manipulated by the resistant factor. Now when this virus infects sensitive cell, it will go inside and it will lead to genetic material transfer to the sensitive cell, and the sensitive cell will become resistant. This is a mechanism which is called as transduction. Next mechanism is transformation. For transformation, if you have to understand, this is again a resistant microbial cell. It undergoes lysis. When lysis of the cell occurs, the R factor also is given out, and it is in the microenvironment of all other microbes, microbial cells. Now this is a sensitive cell which is in contact with the material which has come out from R, and it sometimes happens that this material is taken up by this sensitive cell and it is incorporated into the genetic material and it becomes resistant. So these three are the mechanisms of infectious resistance or gene transfer. Moving ahead, what are the consequences of resistance? It is very interesting and important to know the consequences of resistance. The very first thing is drug tolerance, meaning whatever changes has occurred inside the bacterial cell, microbial cell, what those changes are exactly getting reflected into. So first change is drug tolerance, that is loss of affinity, meaning drug is able to enter inside the microbial cell, but it has nowhere to bind because the target has changed itself. So there can't be any action which is produced. This is one kind of mechanism how resistance is shown. So to understand it better, let us take example of rifampin. This is your drug rifampin, and this is a microbial cell which has RNA polymerase enzyme, which is a target for rifampin. Now this is a sensitive cell and its target has affinity for rifampin. So rifampin enters inside and binds to the target and causes sidal effect, okay, or static effect. Here I have just denoted as kill. So it is able to produce the effect. But same rifampin enters a cell whose RNA polymerase enzyme is mutated. So it is able to enter the cell, but it cannot interact with this modified target, and thus it is not able to produce any antimicrobial action or effect. So this is what is drug tolerance. Another good example is sulfonamide resistance, okay, wherein your microbe is synthesizing its own folic acid. So the biochemical pathway which we'll be discussing in detail, but for now, for simplification purpose, something A getting converted into B, and that ultimately is going to give us your final folic acid. So sulfonamide is an antimicrobial agent which acts on folic acid synthesis pathway in the microbes. So any microbe which is synthesizing its own folic acid will be sensitive to sulfonamide. So sulfonamide will go inside, will act on the target and will inhibit this particular production, and then will have antimicrobial action. But mutated bacteria or mutated cells, what they do is very different. They do not synthesize their own folic acid. What they do is they take the folic acid from outside, which is ready-made. Now you can apply some logic here. If sulfonamide enters inside, the microbe is not dependent on this synthetic pathway on which sulfonamide is going to act. So it will not cause no harm to the microbe. So this is another example of drug tolerance or loss of affinity. Next mechanism is drug destroying enzyme. Sometimes the mutation in the microorganism leads to production of enzymes which destroy the drug. Okay. Now they are producing that enzymes naturally. It just happens so that they are able to lyse the drug. So here your drug will enter inside the cell but is destroyed by the enzymes secreted by the bacteria or microorganism, or your drug is destroyed in the microenvironment of the microbe. These are the two possibilities. So it will be clear with the help of diagram. Example is penicillin. So this green color is penicillin, green color triangle. It is destroyed by enzyme penicillinase, which is produced by the microorganism. In gram-positive microorganism, now beauty of this example is penicillinase is produced by gram-negative as well as by gram-positive microorganisms. However, the fate varies or exact action varies at some particular point. Now, what is that? So, penicillin is denoted as green triangles and penicillinase is denoted as red color ovals. So, here this is a gram-negative bacteria. In gram-negative bacteria, penicillinase is produced and this penicillinase is present strategically towards the periphery of the bacterium. Now, as soon as penicillin enters inside, it will be binding or it will be attacked by penicillinase and it will be destroyed. But in gram-negative bacteria, what happens is penicillinase is produced in very large amount and it is given outside. So now it is present in the surrounding microorganism, okay, or microenvironment of the organism. Microenvironment is immediate environment of this microbe. So what happens, as soon as you give the drug is destroyed outside only because the enzyme is present in the outside. Okay, so this is the mechanism which is drug destroying enzyme mechanism. Next is drug impermeability. So basically, in such kind of mutations, they lead to not allowing the drug to attain minimum inhibitory concentration, not allowing the drug to attain concentrations inside the cell which are lethal to the cell, microbial cell. So here there are two possibilities. One possibility you can see with ampicillin. Ampicillin is a hydrophilic drug. So it requires porine channels. So I have shown here channels. So what happens? The microorganism has enough porine channels to allow entry of ampicillin. So ampicillin will have attained lethal concentration inside the cell. But in mutants, what you will observe is there are less porine channels present. So less ampicillin will be entering inside. It won't be able to reach the lethal concentration. Another mechanism is drug is getting inside, but it is not remaining inside. So here, if you know, there is a concept of influx pump and efflux pump. Okay, what shown in blue color is influx pump. What shown in green color is a efflux pump. Now, when you talk about definition, as the name indicates, influx is something which will allow entry of a substance inside the cell. Efflux is which will pump the substance outside the cell. Now, normally also efflux pumps are present. However, their number is less. So, still the drug is able to attain the lethal concentration. But in case of mutants, if you see, the number of efflux pump is very high. So drug enters inside and it is immediately flushed out. And that is how it will never attain the lethal concentration inside. So this is a fundamental behind alteration in the drug permeability because of mutation. There is another concept which is very important, that is concept of drug cross resistance. Now here you have to understand, let me explain you with the diagram first. This is drug 1 and this is drug 2. What has happened? A person is suffering from some infection and these three are sensitive microbes and this is a resistant mutant which is already present in that population. Your drug 1 comes, interact with the receptor in this manner and causes lysis or killing of the sensitive cell. What happens? The resistant cell gets opportunity to grow and multiply, and the resistant cell attains a population which throws clinical symptoms and which again require treatment. This is nothing but recurrence of infection. But what is the difference in this? The nature of the microbes has changed. So here, now again if you give drug 1, Is it going to work? Of course not, because the target is mutated. But as a second choice of drug, you choose drug 2, which is exactly similar in action and requires same target for its action. What do you think? Drug 2 will be able to act? Again, no. So see, drug 1 was responsible for creating positive pressure for survival of this particular R, which is a mutant. Drug 2 was never involved in creating that positive pressure because drug 2 was never given to this particular patient. But this particular population, because of the mechanism of action similarities between drug 1 and 2, because of many maybe structural similarities between drug 1 and 2, drug 2 is also not able to act. This is nothing but the concept of cross resistance, wherein selective pressure is created by drug A, but due to similarity in the structure or MOA, resistance is extended to drug B as well. So, treating this recurred infection with drug B or drug 2 is also not workable. You will have to switch to some other drug which does not rely on same target. That is how it is important to know the concept of cross resistance. So, I hope now all of you will agree that we need to prevent drug resistance. Otherwise, what will happen? We will not have any drugs to actually show effect, antimicrobial effect, if the resistance problem keep on growing. So, how can you prevent occurrence of drug resistance? Avoid irrational use of antimicrobial agents, meaning using of antimicrobial agents for viral infections which are self-limiting. Here, if you unnecessarily give your antimicrobial agent for treatment of viral infection, what will happen? Maybe you may have very small population of microbe inside your body which is not able to show any clinical manifestation, but it has now exposed to antimicrobial agent. The antimicrobial agent will kill all sensitive microbes, but resistant one will become aggressive and they will survive. Inadequate usage. Many people, what they tend to do is, they do not complete the treatment regimen of the antimicrobial agent. When the symptoms are gone, they feel they are okay and they stop the treatment. This can lead to recurrence of infection and this can also lead to development of resistance. Use of non-specific or broad spectrum antimicrobial agents. Many times, without any rationale, without proper diagnosis, broad spectrum agents are given to the patients because whatsoever infection is present, they are able to kill the microbes. That can work for that particular time, but the pressure created by broad spectrum agent can lead to emergence of resistance. Another thing, another strategy is prefer rapidly acting selective antimicrobial agents. You will have to select the agents which will be rapidly acting and which will be selective antimicrobial agents. Yet another strategy is use of combinations. Here, we will take one example. You see, this is what I was referring to when I was referring to this particular synthesis of folic acid in the microbes. So, this is a pathway which is followed by microbial cell for synthesis of folic acid. So, PABA, that is para-aminobenzoic acid, glutamic acid plus pteridine, they together with the help of dihydropteroate synthetase produce dihydropteroic acid that gets converted into dihydrofolic acid. This dihydrofolic acid with the help of dihydrofolate reductase enzyme gets converted into tetrahydrofolic acid, and this again serves as a building block for genetic material synthesis of microorganisms. So here you have two different agents. One agent, that is sulfonamide, is able to inhibit dihydropteroid synthetase enzyme. If given alone, what will happen? If there is some mutation present in dihydropteroid synthetase, the organism will be resistant to sulfonamide and will be able to survive. But trimethoprim is another agent which acts on another enzyme which is a part of same pathway, that is dihydrofolate reductase. So this is called as sequential block of the pathway. So when these two agents are given together, if both the enzymes are sensitive, sulfonamide will act on dihydropteroid synthetase, trimethoprim will act on dihydrofolate reductase, these two enzymes, and it will show the action. Consider a case wherein dihydropteroid synthesis is mutated. Sulfonamide won't be able to act. But because dihydrofolate reductase is sensitive, trimethoprim will show the action and the organism will not, there will be antimicrobial effect. It can be reverse also, that is, you have dihydropteroid synthetase which is sensitive to sulfonamide, but reductase is mutated. So that case sulfonamide will exert antimicrobial effect and trimethoprim will not be able to for that particular cell. But you will have to agree that finding an organism which has mutated form of dihydropteroid synthetase as well as dihydrofolate reductase is very, very rare and difficult, and that is how emergence of resistance can be avoided by the use of combinations. It is like you are finding a person who is 5 feet tall. Okay. It is very easy to find a person who is 5 feet tall. Okay. So it is very easy to find dihydropteroid synthetase mutant. But now I add specification. I want a person who is 5 feet tall and who has blue eyes. That means a person with dihydropteroid synthetase mutation and reductase mutation. It will be very rare. I can find a person separately who is 5 feet tall. I can find a person separately who has blue eyes. But finding both the characteristic in one person will be difficult. So use of combination is a tested way, time-tested way and rational way to prevent drug resistance. So that is how we end our discussion here today for this particular video, which covers resistance and how to prevent resistance. Thank you.